Are you a football fan? Have you ever found yourself wondering, what in the world was that ref thinking? Well, Mike D, the referee, is here to help you. Join me on Whistle Talk as I talk to professionals on the field and in the booth to help you understand what is going on inside the mind of a football official. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Whistle Talk, coming to you from the Vets to Ref studio. Mike D, the referee, back at you here once again. Tonight we got a little bit of an interesting show. If I can get the music to stop playing in the background, there we go. All right, got a little interesting show going on tonight. We got a little round two of the round table segment with white hats, but tonight's going to be a little bit different than the previous white hat talk. Tonight I got some newer white hats, guys, that I've when I put it out on the Facebook chat that were basically within the last couple of years or coming into their first year of officiating and being the white hat. So we're going to talk about some of the challenges that newer white hats have. But before we dive into that, if you are enjoying the show, ladies and gentlemen, my podcast spiel, if you're enjoying the show, do me a favor, hit those follow and like buttons, subscribe now, do all those things that are totally for free. Helps other people find our podcast now that our season is upon us. I am days away from opening kickoff. We want to really get the word out there and get people listening to us so they'll leave us the hell alone in the bleachers and all those fun stuff. While you're at it, if you leave a quick review of the podcast or possibly share an episode with somebody that you know that might enjoy it, or even if you just share it on social media, it will help grow the community. You can go to my YouTube page if you like. You can go to YouTube, Mike D, at Mike D the referee, and you can subscribe there. So if you want to get a visual and see my beautiful face and my awesome background, and Keith, you got to point out your Madden football too when we get a moment. You could take a look there on the YouTube page. And once again, if you would like to buy me a beverage, which I needed one tonight, I just got home from my son's football practice and it was a doozy, so I need to have myself a little beverage. You can go to buymeacoffee.com/Mike D the referee. Every little bit helps, but if not, just hit that like button. That'll be good enough. So with that said, let's dive into tonight's episode. So, gentlemen, how you guys doing tonight? You guys ready to rock and roll for the season?
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
So, tonight we got on three and potentially a fourth. We may have somebody jumping on a little bit late. Three white hats of varying levels of background with their white hattery. Is that even a word? Their experience of being a white hat. So we're going to go right down the line. On my screen as I'm looking at you, I got Aaron, Brett, and then Keith. So Aaron, we'll start off with you. Why don't you introduce yourself, where you're coming from, and how many years you've been white hatting?
Oh, yeah. My name's Aaron Oskian. I call over here in the TVFOA, Tennessee Valley in Northwest Alabama. I'm based out of Muscle Shoals, Alabama. I started white hatting last Thursday. It was my first game ever as a white hat. I got the call last Wednesday night. My assigner called, said, hey, we had something happen. Do you mind jumping in since you're going to be doing it on Saturdays? So, yeah, got my first live white hat action last Thursday night. Excellent game. No issues whatsoever. Couldn't ask for a first white hat game ever. Going into my seventh year in high school, I've always been at the U. Never worked anything else but the U. But, last year I got into the NAIA with the Mid-South and Appalachian. I was a supplemental. And about a month or so ago, I got offered to become a crew chief. So, and without even thinking, I said yes.
Attaboy. Nice job. All right, next in line, we got Brett Wiggins. Brett, how are you?
I'm good. I guess my background, I'm apparently from the same state as Aaron. I'm down here in Calhoun County, kind of halfway between Birmingham and Atlanta. I call with Mid-East Alabama Football Officials Association. I started in 2020. Started white hatting, I guess, 2023. I had my first Friday night varsity game. I've been doing a little bit on Saturdays, and last year I did about 8 games, I think, at white hat, and the rest of them were split up between back judge, side judge, field judge, which is where I started at, to begin with. I was side judge last Friday night on our first game of the year, but I'll be white hatting tomorrow, Friday night,
Okay.
for our local Christian academy that plays 8-man, and then who knows where I'll be after that.
Yeah, we're going to have to touch on that 8-man stuff because that is completely foreign to me here in New Jersey, the 8-man. I know it's out there. It's in a lot of places, but for me, I still can't wrap my brain around it. I think arena football and stuff like that. So last but not least, Mr. Keith DeShane. How are you, sir?
I'm doing good. I got to say something about the 8-man football. I played umpire for one of those games. I got almost 10 miles in. I was like, I don't want to do one of those games again. I'm from Geneseo, Illinois. I cross the Mississippi every day to go to work. So I work Iowa games and Illinois games. This is actually my first year as white hatting. I've been refereeing for 4 years now, and I went to a clinic where it was Larry Smith and Ron Torbett and Sean Smith were there from the NFL, and they said if you can white hat, you should white hat. So I was like, all right. He did the Super Bowl last year, so I'm going to do it.
Yeah, he's got a little bit of a clout, so I guess he could make those recommendations.
Yeah, he was at our state Officiate Alabama Day this year.
Is that Ron Torbert?
Yeah, Ron.
That's good stuff. So I guess my first question for the three of you, and I know that we all have different positional backgrounds, but what made you want to become a white hat? Keith, you kind of just mentioned it. It kind of got the seed kind of got planted to you. But what made you say, all right, you want to know something? I want to give up being in the back and come and have all eyes focused on me, screaming my name and booing me whenever my crewmates throw a flag. So what made you guys decide to be white hat? So Keith, I'll go with you first on this one.
What made me want to be a white hat was the PV games and like JV games. A lot of the officials around here, they just acted like it was like nothing. And I'm like, these kids are playing their heart out. We should give them the best we got right now. And I wanted to be able to put a crew together that would want to do that, because they don't get the playoffs, they don't get nothing else, and I wanted to give them the best officiating that they could. And
I love it.
And I wanted to look the part too.
That's awesome. I love that. Brad, how about you? What made you decide to put the white hat on?
I got kind of thrown into it. My signer called me and said, hey, we need you to do this on Saturdays, and it might turn into a Friday night thing. And, when I started this whole refereeing thing, I never wanted to be a white hat. I wanted to be in the back and not have all eyes on me. But, I started on Saturdays and just kind of fell in love with it. I'm a real rule book kind of guy. I take an offense when I don't get 100 on the certification test, and classification exams. So I just kind of got thrown into it, really.
Now, just for clarification, you're talking about Saturday games versus Friday night games. What's the difference? Because here, where I am, we have some schools that still don't have lights, so we still have varsity games Saturday afternoon. So
in our association, we actually call our Saturday games youth football, but we call it D4, so Division IV football.
Okay.
But yeah, it's just youth ball. Usually we've got 3 games on Saturdays, and it's I think 12, 10, and then 8-year-olds or something like that. So
okay. So my son's now 14 years old, so he's middle school, 8th grade, and we have AYF here in New Jersey, so he's on the 14U AYF team. So that's where I just got back from coaching from, and like I said before, it was a doozy. So this pour me or buy me a beer is necessary tonight. So, all right, Aaron, how about yourself? What made you decide to put the hat on?
Well, I never honestly, I've always had the itch to move over there. Playing ball back in the day, I've always played multiple positions. I always went wherever my coaches asked me to go. It's kind of funny, what kind of got the thought in my coordinator's head was, we had spring scrimmages and I was going to I noticed there was like 5 umpires listed at the scrimmage. So I messaged the liaison and I said, hey, I know when a lot of people don't want to wear the white hat. So if you need one, I'll be glad to do it. And he's like, yes, immediately. And then after that scrimmage, I got a call from my coordinator, and he said, hey, heck of a job. He goes, why don't you think about moving to white hat? I could use one next season. So I've always been told by my mentors, whether it's line judge or back judge. I don't know if they have 250-pound back judges at the next level. I've seen a few, but you always say yes. And when he said the white hat, I was driving down 840 in Tennessee, and I almost drove off the road. And I was like, yes, sir, I'll accept it. So I jumped on it and immediately went home and started watching YouTube's on refereeing signals. Just started that day about a month and a half ago. So, but no, I'm excited and interested in learning a lot more. Plus, it gets me in the rule book, so I figure it'll, I'm pretty comfortable at the U position. I feel like it's second nature to me. And, I figure it's a good challenge and gets me out of my comfort zone in the officiating world.
Yeah, and I found that transitioning from the U to the R was a little bit easier. And I'm saying easier, and I know there's a lot of, and talking with people in the past, that a lot of them came from the back judge spots or the deep wing positions up. I kind of felt personally that it was easier from the U position because I'm working one-on-one with the R every single game. So it's them and myself that are doing the constant communication inside and relying on our crewmates the whole time to kind of help us out. And as the U, have my back literally and figuratively. But I know a lot of deep guys, kind of like the catcher position in baseball. The deep guys are seeing everything at a broader spectrum, so they're seeing the entire game. So they're bringing everything in a little bit better than sometimes we are being short. So a couple different ways that people have transitioned from it, but it's funny that you guys are talking about it. My first game that I ever, as a cadet, I worked a freshman football game with in my association, my chapter. We're 2 counties here in New Jersey, and I'm in the southernmost area of our chapter, and they put me with 2 of the most highly regarded officials in our area for a freshman game. And it was my first game on the field. And I walk on the field, I introduce myself, and they're like, "All right, Michael, where do you want to be?" I'm like, "Oh, well, I want to be the R," and I said it completely sarcastically. And the one guy who's done multiple state championship games and the other gentleman who was on his crew was the mayor of one of our neighboring towns. They're like, all right, you got it. And my reaction then was like, haha, oh, shit. So that was my first real test because then they started dropping some like flags because it was a scrimmage, and they're like, "Coach, we're just testing our young guy in the back and seeing if he knows the signals and stuff like that. So disregard these flags, but we're testing him." So they started testing me by doing stuff like that. But it was a great learning experience, and I truly enjoyed it. And kind of like what Keith said, I've coached for 20 some odd years, and I'm back at coaching along with officiating, coaching my son's team again. I know how hard these kids work. At the high school level, I coached college football and now coaching the youth football game. I know how hard these kids are putting in the time. I want to give them the best officiated game. I want them to not know that we're there and just remember the football game and not the official. So if I can do my part for them to forget me in the long run, I think I'm doing a good job. I mean, yeah, I'm going to call those blatant fouls and safety fouls, but I want them to have a clean, safe game. So Keith, I really loved that answer. Not that I didn't like Aaron and Brett's answer, but talking just it's resonating with me because my son just had his first AYF game this past weekend, and we had a couple of cadets that were working the game, and it's all part of my association. So I was kind of coaching them through, because our game was a blowout. So I was kind of coaching them through some of the different things that was happening. I'm like, all right, you should have thrown a flag on my son on that play. So things like that.
And you have the opportunity to coach at that level too. Being an official, you could still coach along with the coach.
Yep.
Like, hey,
100%.
you gotta keep your head up. Don't spear him with the top of your helmet.
Yeah, and it's funny too, because I don't know, Aaron, if you relate to this as a you, the kids on the field, especially in the high school games, if I talk to them, they're like, okay, coach, because it's just ingrained in their minds. Okay, coach, yes, coach. And they're like, oh, wait, I'm sorry, Mr. Official. I'm like, guys, I'm a coach too, don't worry. But it's just how they speak.
Yeah, I mean, I get called coach all the time. I mean, you know, every time I see somebody diving in head first, I'm like, man, keep your head up. You know, and, you know, I don't go into too much details, just like, man, keep your head up, safety, stuff like that. You know, don't jump on the piles. It's, you know, because, and they understand, you know, sometimes they'll start paying attention and acknowledge you once you catch it, because, you know, you don't know how consistently they hear that every night. So, or every time during the game.
So, Brett, I'm going to throw this next question at you. What did you find to be probably the most challenging aspect, like your first game walking out there, of being a white hat? Like, what was the one thing that was going through your mind? Was it penalty enforcement? Was it game management? Was it the signals? Like, what do you think it was?
Really, it was the coaches' meetings. Like, I had hardly any idea what to ask and what I needed to do, and you know, I kind of stumbled my way through it the first time, but you know, after that, penalty enforcement's not that hard for me. Not to like brag on myself or anything, but I feel like I'm really comfortable with, you know, penalty enforcement and just making sure that, you know, all the rules are followed and everything like that. So, yeah, really the coaches meeting.
How about you, Keith?
Well, when I put the crew together, I made sure I had a well-experienced official, if I want to call him that. So I wasn't worried about that, because the umpire and the head linesman, we only have 5 in our area.
Mm-hmm.
I knew they could do the penalties. My biggest thing was the signals, because as soon as I'm on the field, I'm like, what's the holding call? I don't remember what the holding call is, and especially when they have like the PA system, and you hear yourself, it takes a little bit to get used to.
I haven't been lucky enough to have a PA system yet, so
myself included. I haven't been a white hat for a game with the PA system, but I've worked as a U for a couple of games with the PA system, and I know my white hat leans on me as being the umpire too, of making sure, and he reminds us pregame, if I screw up, you all screwed up. So make me look good, so we all look good. So we're sitting there, we're like, hey, it's holding. So we're kind of like giving him little subtle hints behind the play that other people aren't seeing to kind of make sure that he's on point with it. So,
I just told him, if I'm doing something wrong, tell me in my ear with the OTO. Mm-hmm. Let me know. Like, if I'm doing something wrong, just let me know. You know, no one else can hear that one.
Yep.
I got one of those little laminated cards off of Umpatire or somewhere that's got all the signals on it and everything, and I keep that in my game card wallet.
And I think I've got like 4 or 5 of them, and I'm not going to lie, I don't think I've actually ever looked at it, because I feel the pressure of, okay, the eyes are on me. If I'm looking through my card, what am I going to? So yeah,
I feel like I use it more when I'm not the white hat than when I am, just to help out the white hat.
So the first game that I was a white hat, I was a guest on a different crew, so it wasn't even my crew. But lucky enough, I had a very experienced short wing who had his back to the press box, who was giving me all the little here, just giving me very subtle just hints, just to remind me as I was facing the press box. And he was just like, okay, and then he would give me a little thumbs up. So, but it was very subtle, and I was very appreciative of it. But yeah, that definitely helped me out a lot. But I mean, it's the signaling is something that we look bad because even though we may give the right signal, the guys in the press box, do they know what all the signals are? So it's one of those things that I feel it's something that we do need to have the responsibility of as an R, and we should be very good at it, and it falls on our shoulders to know that. But in the end of the game, did we adjudicate it correctly? Did we mark the ball off the proper spot? So that's my bigger concern, and I guess that's the umpire in me to make sure that I'm marking it off and getting the right spot from there. So, Aaron, how about yourself? What do you think was the most nerve-wracking thing the first time you put the white hat on?
Well, I got two things. First, of course, is going to be the signals. I'll never forget. Over the spring, I did my first signal, and I did personal foul on the defense. And man, I was so confident. I go back to my spot, blowing my whistle, ready to play. And then my trainer comes to the side. He goes, "Hey man," he goes, "What's the personal foul signal again?" I'm like, "Oh." He goes, "You sure it's not this?" I was like, "No." I was like, "Oh man, I did that, didn't I?" He goes, then we had a conversation. He's like, "Hey, slow it down. Take a deep breath." And no joke, a couple of plays later, I did holding. So it was just one thing after another, and I was just scratching my head because as an umpire, we're not looking at the signals. We're marking.
Nope.
We get the penalty, we're marking it off. But last Thursday night, no issues whatsoever. We had some pretty wild calls, and I got it down. And I'm like you guys, I got the quarterback sleeve. I didn't wear it the other night, but I bought one just in case. And you guys watch me on Saturdays, I might have it with me. Just hopefully, I won't need to use it or look at it because I'll be that dude. And believe it or not, the other one was the coin toss. It's like I've been a part of all of them for the last 7 years, but it's always defer. It's always defer, and I'm like, I got to make sure I do this right. So I watch a bunch of Ron Torbert highlights, and I was like, all right, cool. That's what I'm going to go based off of right there. And, just to make sure none of the kids mess it up. And other than that, but yeah, the coin toss and the penalty signals was my most nerve-wracking one so far. But as far as enforcement, being a U, it's second nature. So as long as I got a solid U with me, we'll be good.
It's funny that you bring up the coin toss because I still have ingrained in my memory the Thanksgiving game 15 years ago or whatever it was with Jerome Bettis calling it. And he's like, no. So I make sure that I echo it and I say it. And I'm like, guys, this is going to hit the ground. You called heads. It's going to hit the ground and we're going to go from there. And I make sure that it's not in the air. I'm getting it beforehand. We're hitting the ground. I'm echoing it to my umpire, or I as the umpire, I'm echoing what they call back to the R. Because that was one of those things you're just like, I never thought of it. Like that played a big proponent in that game that day. So I want to go back to the communication aspect now that we were just talking about and the PA system. Keith, where you are, do they use a PA system often?
At the local school that my kids go to, they have a PA system, and I've actually had to officiate there before. I wasn't white hat there last year when we did that.
So when it comes to the communication aspect, how do you guys find with dealing with the coaches as they are now, given those signals, given the preliminary signals, if necessary, different things like that? So when it comes to communicating with now your sidelines after a flag has been thrown, what are some things tips that you guys do or challenges that you found of communicating with the coach? Because obviously one sideline is not happy with the call that's being made, and the other sideline is very happy. So, Aaron, we'll start off with you. What are your thoughts with that?
If it's a penalty that's obviously we know the coach is going to take it. We're going to roll with it. But as far as any kind of miscommunication, I haven't come into that yet. We did have something the other night when I was at U, and I think the white hat that was with me that night handled it very well. Before he made the signal, we addressed both coaches of what happened in the situation. And one coach, of course, they were happy. The other one was pretty upset. But, it wasn't like we talked to one coach, made the signal, and then told the other coach what happened. We slowed it down. It took about a good couple of minutes to figure out what happened because it's something you don't ever see every Friday night.
Mm-hmm.
But our white hat, he handled it very well, and that's something I learned and made a little tidbit about. Talk to the coaches, both sides, let them know what's going to happen, and this is the way we're going to proceed. And that would be my tip. Is communicate to the coaches. Don't try to rush it, and they're going to have questions, so be ready to explain it pretty quick, without laying out a whole rules knowledge test or something. But as long as you communicate to both coaches and then turn around and then make your signal, that's what we found was the best way, and he handled it very well.
So now, Keith, you brought up the O to O's before. Are all of you using the O to O system? Are we at a point now that is pretty much like status quo across the NFHS level, the high school level, that everybody's using the O to O's for the most part?
Yeah, in Alabama,
For the most
mechanics manual, it's part of our required uniform now.
I don't think it's part of a required uniform in the IHSA in Illinois or Iowa, but all the crews that I've worked with, we all have them.
So we had a game, I want to say it was 2-3 years ago, with the crew that I'm on, where we had 2 guest officials, and I personally have my own Otos. I went out and bought them myself, so I've got 2 of them. So I always carry, as the umpire, I have to have the backup of everything for my R. So I have an extra coin, I have extra flags, I've got extra everything with me. But I also have an extra radio with me. But we had 2 guests, and some of the crews, their crew chief carries all the radios with them, so they weren't with their crew chief. So we had one short radio for what we needed. And it was a game that didn't have any playoff ramifications. So our white hats want to know something? Let's go old school. Let's not have the O to O's on. Let's just go back to come in, sprint in, communicate with me. Well, I could tell you, I felt naked out there, and it was one of the harder games that we had in a very long time, because it was 2 very undisciplined teams, to say the least. So trying to communicate stuff across the field to the other sideline and trying to communicate it, get it to the coach. And it happened to be a very windy day. And for all of you that understand talking into the wind, nobody could hear you. So just trying to communicate. So it ended up being worse than what we thought it was going to be, because not having the O-toes. And we kind of learned our lesson. We're like, all right, let's make sure we have a couple of backup radios, or communicate before the game. Hey, do you have a radio? Do you need us to bring an extra radio and whatnot? But yeah, the O-toes are it's not mandatory, but it is highly, highly recommended here in New Jersey. So you guys all the same?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And being back judge without a radio, you're running a lot if you throw in a flag.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got them. We use them up here in Northwest Alabama. I tell you what, guys, if you don't have that push easy talk, this is my first year using one.
Oh yeah.
Oh, night and day, so much easier. If anybody wants, hopefully you get a kickback for a show if sales increase, Mike. Those things, I've always looked at them. I've always thought they were pretty cool. Not for the look, but for the easement of it, instead of looking like, what's that guy from South Park talking on his voice or something. But, because sometimes you can't really get there. You're like, hey, did you hear me? But with the easy talk, oh, man, the communication's so much clearer and simple. And, it's easy.
It's a lot higher sound quality, too.
Exactly.
So, Aaron, tell us, where can you find the Easy Talk headset?
On Mike D's podcast. Honestly, I cannot tell you the website. It's on RefQuest.
Yep.
Man, I've actually scouted them. I've shopped around for it. If you want, I could send you the link to send it out.
I just gave the website to one of our fellow officials tonight at my our junior high game I was working. Is goodcallofficiating.com. It's the speakeasy headset.
Yeah. Yep. That's another one. Yep.
Penaltycard.com is what I use, and it's on there.
So I actually took penaltycard.coms. I bought their penalty cards, and I actually made my own call card that I utilize, as do you, because their call card is great, but at times it was a little bit too much, and it didn't have enough scoring columns for some of the games that we were working. So I had to modify it and add scoring columns, because I want to say there's only like 7 scores, and the way that I track the scores, it's a line per score, so I know who scored and when and everything like that is how I use the scorecard. But yeah, they got some good stuff at both those sites. So good stuff. So you guys were talking about, some of you kind of were thrown into it. And we still have across the country a shortage of officials. I know here where we're at, we have, for the 2 counties that I work, I think we have 16 crews, and we're looking to try to get to 17 or 18 crews. But Keith, as you were talking about putting together a crew, that's a challenge in its own right. So kind of tell us about how you went about putting together your crew, and what were the steps that you were able to take? Because I know everybody's a little bit different, and I know some people don't even still have set crews in different states. So that's a whole unique issue in its own right.
Well, here we have 5-man crews, and I got asked from my assigner, hey, you need to if you want to put a crew together, because we need another crew. And so I looked and looked and looked, and I was asking around, trying to find everybody, and I umpire baseball.
Okay.
So 2 of the guys that I umpire baseball with, I was like, hey, you guys like football? Come try it out. Just give me 1 season. 1 season. I'll pay your fee. Give me 1 season. And they came over, and they love it. I found a 19-year-old kid. I shouldn't call him a kid, but he's 19, and he's our back judge. He can run around all night. He doesn't get tired.
Like a gazelle.
And, yeah. And our head linesman, he was white hat for a long time, and he was going to train me to be white hat for a couple years, but that didn't. He retired, and now he's like, all right, you're white hat. I'm just going to yell at you through the OTO. So he makes sure that we're doing everything right. And our Connor and Ryan, they're the brand new guys, and they're brand new, and we're doing varsity. So I'm like, all right,
very nice.
You guys, it's baptism by fire. You guys, we're doing it, okay? And
so now, when you're saying they're brand new, they haven't officiated at all in a high school game?
No, last week they didn't. Their uniforms weren't even here yet. I have extra uniforms, and so, our umpire is like, he's like 6'1". I'm only 5'10", 5'9". I and so I'm like, all right, here's my extra pants. They're gonna be high waters, and this shirt's gonna be really tight. But I mean, everything worked out. Everything worked out.
So
but
the
it
way
was
that
just week 0, it was a scrimmage, so it was all right.
So the way that we kind of did it here in New Jersey, especially when I was coming up through the ranks, is my first year on the field, I was only allowed to do varsity chains. So I was kind of an observer in essence. And I was one I loved, and I got it in the background. I loved being on the box, where a lot of people don't like being on the box. I was a guy, I wanted to be on the box because I wanted to be in that short wing's ear and communicate with them to learn, and not just hold a stick 10 yards away from somebody else that I couldn't talk with. But our first year, we couldn't do any varsity games, but we could do all sub-varsity, so freshman and JV games, plus all youth games. So that's where the story, my first time on the field of a high school game with those 2 gentlemen that threw all those phantom flags, kind of threw me baptism under fire, like you were saying, Keith. But right now, we kind of went away with that in New Jersey because of the COVID years. And I know that kind of hit everybody with the officiating world a little bit different. So we were allowing first year guys to come on the varsity games, and it was a challenge in its own right, because for some guys, especially if they don't have a sports background, if they're just getting into it, it's a different atmosphere, and especially if you throw them into a big game with a better crew that are used to working with each other and things like that, it could be a challenge. So Keith, I wish you a lot of luck with them, but it sounds like you got a good group of guys that you're working with, though.
Hopefully. I first couple down for like a deer in the headlight, but we're good though. We're good.
There you go. So now, Brett and Aaron, do you guys have set crews where you are?
No, we don't. On Saturdays I do have a set crew. I got my crew 7. We run 7-man in Mid-South and Appalachian. But on Friday nights,
wait a minute, hold on a second. Time out. Did you just say you run a 7-man crew in the youth level on Saturdays?
No, in the NAI.
Oh, okay. I was like,
no. Yeah, we got 7-man crews, man. We run straight Super Bowls on these D4 games, I'm telling you.
God bless.
No, that's for the NAI, the Mid-South and Appalachian Conference. I got a set crew. We got great guys. They've been together for 2 years, and I'm mentoring in. It's pretty cool. One of them actually calls here with me in the Tennessee Valley. He just joined this year as a first year, so we got on a crew. And one of the guys I used to coach about 15, 16 years ago, he's on my crew now. So that's cool too. So, we're excited. But no, on Friday nights, it could be, you could work with somebody new. We got about 23 schools we cover. Some schools are, if you graduated there within 20 years, you can't call there, or, they'll be scratched and they can't call. So, our assigner, bless his heart, I know he does a tremendous job. It's a tough job for sure, but he plugs up. If it's a high game, he gets the right officials in there depending on what's needed. And some schools need 5-man, some need 7. So, and more we're seeing 7-man these days. So, yeah, it's a mixture crew, but, you'll know who you are, who you're with by Monday, the week, prior to that Friday. So, and communication starts as early as Tuesday. So, we run a pretty tight ship up here.
And thank you for giving a shout out to the assigners, because I know that's a pain in the ass to just be honest with you, because I know they're dealing with guys like me, and all of a sudden you got different turnbacks, and like we were talking about, life sometimes gets in our way, and now they're the ones that it falls on their shoulders to fit that hole right away. So
no, right. Exactly, yeah, because they got daytime jobs too as well, and I felt bad that my signer scheduled me for a game that I forgot to block 2 weeks ago. And I'm like, hey man, just I got to block this Thursday night because I got to call a college game, but I'll go wherever you need me to go Friday, regardless of the game. I'll go. And he's like, all right, so be it. This is where you're going. So.
And how about you, Brett?
Yep. We don't have set crews. We find out, usually we get our assignments out. Our assigner's good about sending it out on Sunday nights. And like everybody on my crew for this week is accepted. I think I may actually have been the last one to accept that game. So I sent a text out this morning and said, hey, we're going to meet here at this time and be ready to pregame and get it done, and, tell them what radio or what channel the radio is going to be on and all that. And since we're doing the 8-man, I did, send out the, hey, if you've got any questions about anything, let me know as soon as you can. So if it's something I got to look up, I mean, the 8-man is not a whole lot different. It's, one less guy in the backfield and 2 less guys on the line of scrimmage, basically. And the field's a little bit more narrow than a normal field.
Now, how many officials work the 8-man games?
We do 5. We do a crew of 5 on that one.
And Keith, is that what you did?
Yeah, but the last 8-man game we did, the 5th guy didn't show up, so I was backfire.
Oh, backfire.
I don't recommend it.
No. Yeah, we do mostly 7-person crews when we're Most of our contracts are 7-person, and then if we do have a 5-person, our signer is really good about splitting the entire like 5-person pay up among 7 people and getting some newer guys working on the field. And we get a little bit less, but I mean, I'd rather take $10 less game fee and have 2 more eyes on the field, or 2 more sets of eyes on the field.
So now, Brett, you brought up before about pregame. So how do you guys go about with pregame, especially Brett, you and Aaron, with when you're getting a different group each week, even though you may be familiar with who the people are, but they might not have all worked together as a cohesive unit before. So how do you guys approach your pregame with crews like that?
Honestly, with me, it depends on who's on my crew. Like, I know the guys, and I know who's worked more than what. And sometimes if we've got a less experienced guy on the crew, I'll send out a text, say, hey, can you go over this penalty or this part of the rule book in our pregame meeting? Tell me what the difference between pass interference and defensive holding is, that kind of stuff. And just get them in the rule book and get them thinking about it and get them in the case book. That way, they've got something to do and something to dive into.
So with that, have you found any pushback? Some people who didn't do their homework assignment?
Luckily, I haven't yet. I don't think I will. We've got a really good group of guys, and all the younger guys are eager to get on the field. So they want to show that they're into it for the long haul. So
yeah, because I mean, as much as we don't want to talk about it, there are a lot of people out there. I shouldn't say a lot. There are a minority group out there in stripes that are there for their egos. And from what you're talking about, you may send a text message to somebody and they're like, I'm not doing this homework assignment. I know what I'm doing. And why the hell would I do something like that? And so you do get some pushback at times. And we have rating systems here in New Jersey. We get outside entities that come in and observe us and critique us, and they don't know the individual crews anymore. So we get graded at least once, sometimes twice a year on our performance. So that helps us on who's going to be eligible for playoffs and things like that. So when you're talking with the different crews and stuff like that, how does it work then with going, and I'll again focus with Brett and Aaron on this one, being you guys are placed on different crews each week, how does it go for playoff assignments and things like that?
I know the first round's our district director, and then I think the rest of it goes to the state, if I'm not mistaken. Aaron, you can correct me if I'm wrong.
I think you're right, Brett. That's how it goes. When I first got into my first playoff game, my white hat, who calls in the Sun Belt now, he basically sent out, list by list who handles what. And, my thing was to look at O-line tendencies for both teams and, do our homework on that. Somebody else might have got something like, play tendencies, what to be prepared for on third and short, or what do they usually run. So we never really got any kind of pushback. We tend to prepare because we do some mixed crews when it comes time to playoffs. But during the season, our district director does a fantastic job of laying out the foundation of what all of his associations should be talking about and discussing during our weekly meetings. And it's kind of, it's just, and then it's, come game time, we communicate, we talk about everything. Like, last Thursday, I print out a sheet of everything to go over, the knee coverage, the feign, well, not the feign injuries, that's college, but then the fumble forward rule we just come out with, or fumble going out of bounds, we discussed that. One of the things I always talked about to the crew is, penalty communication is the biggest thing. If I got 2 flags, I want only 2 people talking. Tell me what you got, and we'll go from there. I don't want multiple people talking, and then, I start going cross-eyed and forget what everybody's trying to say. But no, I think it's, we don't get much pushback. We do get, because all of it, and all in all, it's preparation. And we started rolling early since July, talking about the same things over and over again, and it's just engraved in your head. So yeah, no pushback whatsoever. We've been kind of blessed with that. So, plus, it's just to do the right thing. These guys realize, and gals, they realize this is
Yeah,
important not only to make the officiating crew look good, but to make sure that we're doing the right thing for the coaches and the players themselves.
absolutely. So now, Keith, having now a set crew, but having a very new set crew, how are your pre-games going to be this year? And what are some things that you're going to go over in your pregame with your crew?
To focus on your keys, because the ball can't foul itself.
Love it.
Love
it.
Like the umpire, you need to focus where your key is. Don't watch that ball getting thrown over your head. That's not your key anymore. Don't watch that. And when the ball gets thrown, you gotta let me know through the OTO if it got caught, if it went out of bounds, because I'm still watching the quarterback. So you gotta talk to me and let me know if the clock needs stopped or they got a first down to stop the clock and start it back up when they got the first down, or if you got pushed backwards out of bounds.
Yep.
Knowing the keys and
go ahead. I'm sorry.
Just knowing the keys, and I have a plan with Pete, the more experienced official, to have a topic each week to go over before the game.
Okay.
And if it's really windy, we'll go over like, hey, it's really windy. Remember, if the punt comes back behind the line of scrimmage, don't blow that whistle. They can pick it up and go.
Yep.
They probably got mad or sick of me saying inadvertent whistle. Like, I don't want an inadvertent whistle. I know it's going to happen.
We don't say that on this show.
I don't want to hear it.
We don't say that on this show. It's not allowed. I keep saying it's Voldemort. We don't want to use those words, but yeah, it happens, unfortunately. But you want to try to prevent it as much as possible. That's good stuff. And I remember, again, when I was coming up through the ranks, working either the chains or as a sub official on different crews and stuff like that. One of the crews used to bring the Reading book with them, and they would go through a couple of the questions from the Reading chapter, and they would quiz each other on it right there, or talk about with the case books and different things like that. So that's good stuff, and that's definitely something to keep everybody mentally sharp and to keep everybody on their A game with that stuff. So I like that. So we're kind of getting to that mark here, so I want to kind of wrap it up with one last question. And for those that are watching, like we were talking about before, life got in Brett's way right now. Brett had to jump off for some. Well, he had to put his kids to bed, so I commend that. So, Brett, appreciate you jumping on with us, but Brett had to jump off a little bit earlier because it is late here. So, Brett, thank you very much for jumping on with us. But I want to finish off with just one last question on reflecting on yourselves personally. Like, what are some things that you think you can do in order to make not just yourself, but the game itself better for everybody? Like, how can, and when I say you, I'm including myself in this. How can I make myself better as an R? And what are some things that you think that we all can do as newer officials? Because we all have our own minds and our own ideas on, hey, maybe if I did this, it might make the game a little bit smoother, or game management. Like, what's some ideas that you guys have to try to, I don't know, keep the game building?
Yeah, one of the things I started doing about 2 years ago, is during the pregame, just walk around. As a U, I would talk to the O linemen, the defensive line, the linebackers, and just kind of getting to know them, let them know that I'm just like them, and I used to be like one of them. I used to be on the gridiron playing ball just like them, right? Just trying to not build a friendship, but kind of build some sort of rapport. Like, hey, I'm human just like you. You fumble, I'm gonna miss a call. You drop a pass, I might be looking the wrong way. it's just trying to bring a human element to the game. Talk to them like they're, I'm talking to a bunch of 18, 20-year-old guys, or some as low. Sorry, yeah, that's what I talk to on Saturdays. But now I'm talking to 14 to 16, 18-year-old kids, and I get sometimes I'm a 40. Like last Friday night, I'm a 43-year-old man, calling my linebacker. His name was Frank, and I'm like, hey Frank, I'm like, get your team together, man, get your team calmed up. It's just trying to build a relationship with them, because we knew the magnitude and intensity this game could have got, so we want to just make sure that we're constantly around, talking to them, hyping them up, saying, hey man, great hit, hey, that was almost, hey, keep your head up, man, I would have never made that catch and you made that catch. Just prepping them up, just getting them, let them know that referees aren't there to look for fouls, that we're honestly there to manage the game, right? One of the things I told my crew for Saturdays, are dead balls, pre-snap fouls, automatic. Anything in play, it better kick you in the nuts and scream foul, right? So that's what I try to tell these guys. And they're on board. We don't want to go hunt fouls. We don't want to go hunt penalties. We want it to come to us. But no, ultimately, it's just starting to build relationship and not trying to have that I'm an official, you're a player, you got to do what I say type attitude. Listen to the players and what they're having to say. And one kid, he was getting manhandled one play, and probably years 1 through 3, I would sit there and I'd tell him, like, man, you're just getting your butt kicked. Now it's like, all right, man, I'll look into it. But, I was like, why don't you just try to push him back, or don't let him grab your face mask? Just kind of get them joking and laughing about it to get them to forget about the last play and move on to the next.
That's good stuff. And how about you, Keith?
The best thing I think you could do is have humility, because we're human. We're imperfect. We're gonna make mistakes, and talk like Aaron said, talking to the players and letting them know, like when the huddle comes in, I'm close to them, so I'm talking to them and I'm letting them know. And when they come to me and complain, I listen to them. I hear them. I'm like, all right, I'll let my umpire know that he's grabbing you on the backside or downfield. I listen. I acknowledge them. I want them to feel heard, so they don't get mad at us, and they feel like, hey, they're hearing us out. They're listening to us, and so I want them to have an easier time and just to play football, not to have to worry about having dirty plays or having favoritism getting shown anywhere else.
Yeah, and I got a funny story that kind of ties into what both you guys were saying. I had a game scrimmage last week, and it was two from opposite ends of the state here in New Jersey. They were coming together because they wanted good competition, so they brought each other in, and it was getting heated because it was a private school versus a public school, so it was getting heated. And I was the U at the time, but me and the R were working hand in hand with each other, and kids started mouthing off to each other, and I'm like, yo, I'm like, what's the matter? And he's like, Mr. Official, 67. He tried to punch me in the nuts. I'm like, who? He's like, 6'7". I'm like, 6'7", and did that, and it broke the tension because it's something stupid that the kids know from YouTube. I don't even know where the heck they got it from, but my son says it way too much. But it broke the tension, and it made the kids like, all right, let's go play football. So both teams went back to the huddle. They had a quick chuckle, and then they played football from there. And I just got lucky that the kid was complaining about number 67. But I'm like, it's little things like that. It's the communication. It's to let them know that, yeah, we are human, and we do have lives outside. And yes, my son says the same stupid things that you guys are saying right now. And it made them it made them feel relatable to me, and vice versa, if that makes sense. But it definitely broke the tension, and the communication aspect, it was huge. And I think my R looked at me. He was a little bit of an older school individual. And was like, "What the hell did you say?" I'm like, "Don't worry about it. His kids are older than mine." So
Yeah, anything you can do to relate to the guys. I mean, they're out there. It's an emotional game. They're going to say things. It might be a minimal hold, or to them, it's a huge hold. But if you sit there and explain, I'm like, hey, man, if you're going north and south, it ain't there. But if you start moving east west and trying to make an attempt at the tackle, maybe we'll be able to catch it for you. But ultimately, I just tell the kids, especially on Fridays and Saturdays, just respect the game of football. It's that's what it all comes down to. It's just respect the game, and that could be very broad, and then it gets them to thinking. I don't tell them how to respect it, but then it starts getting in their thinking process, and it resets them. It's just simple little terms, talking to them, because if you go in there gung ho, looking for penalties, man, you're gonna have a long night and a tough career. So
yes. Keith, any last words?
If you throw a lot of flags, and you're ticky tacky, it just makes the games. It makes it last longer, and the tempers get high.
Yeah, 100%. Well, gents, at this point in time, I mean, I could probably spend another 3-4 hours with you guys drinking some cold beverages and talking football with you, but I don't want to hold you guys up from your lives outside of this wonderful world of football that we're in. So at this time, I want to, again, thank you guys for taking time out of your busy schedules. I want to wish you guys good luck. When we do air this episode, we will probably be in week 1 already at the time. I know we got week 0 coming up I got games myself the next Wednesday, Thursday of this week. So I start my regular season here in New Jersey for the high school games. And then then we're in the thick of it. And then it's all we're going. We're running with it. So I wish you guys nothing but the best of luck. I hope you guys have a very safe season. And if there's anything that I can do for you in the future, please feel free to reach out to me. Once again, Aaron, tell people where they could find you. Keith, when he's done, tell people where they could come see you on a Friday night.
Yeah, so you could catch me in Northwest Alabama. That's the Colbert County, Franklin County, Lauderdale County for high school. Then on Saturdays, you'll catch me in the Mid-South and Appalachian Conference. That goes from Kentucky, Tennessee, Alabama. I don't get no ESPN games. It's NAIA football. I think it's the purest football there is. It's a bunch of guys with full-time class loads, full-time football, part-time jobs, no NIL, just doing it for the love of the game. And
yes, sir.
So you can catch me there on Saturdays, and I'll be. If you got a question and you see me on the sideline, I'll do my best to answer it for you. But no, Mike, appreciate what you do with the podcast, man. It's I think it's a great thing. A lot of people don't understand how the game works. I mean, I didn't understand. I thought I knew football all the way. I played 20 years. I thought I knew the game till I picked up a rule book. So appreciate you doing what you do with this podcast, and good luck to you as well.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. And yeah, once we think that we know everything, we know nothing. And Keith, how about yourself?
You can find me on Friday nights around the Quad City area, the QCA. It's between Illinois and Iowa. Saturdays, I'm in the CCIW. I go from near Chicago down almost to Southern Illinois for college. And I do want to tell you, Mike, that I had my whole crew listen to all the rule podcasts that you did, and that was perfect. That was great.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much. I appreciate that a lot, guys. Well, once again, gents, thank you very much, and I hope you guys have an awesome season. And again, feel free to reach out. And for those fans that are out there, if you have any questions or anything, you can reach out to me, MikeDTheReferee@gmail.com, or you could find all those other things on all those the social media things that I'm just getting way too old to be dealing with social media stuff. But guys, thank you very much. And once again, appreciate you.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate you.